Good morning and welcome back to Big Bets on Campus Live. It's 10:30 in the morning, which means we're rolling out the balls, getting in the layup lines, striking up the bands, and giving you the best of college basketball here on Saturday. Getting into our best bets, our long shots, everything up and down the board. I'm not just doing the heavy lifting myself. I'm joined by the team, the three-man weave. That's Matt, Kai, and Jim. And everything we talk about here, our picks, the data, all of it, the articles we're referencing, it's all available in the award-winning Action Network app. And a reminder, BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $1,000 first bet insurance. Terms and conditions apply. So before we get into best bets, just a reminder for our audience, be on the lookout on Twitter for our contest where you get to pick the winner of Indiana and Purdue against the number. Whoever ends up covering there has a chance to win $100. We'll give that game out with all of our analysis later on in the show. So let's hop in. Let's do best bets. I'll throw it to you first, Matt.
Yeah, looking to take Utah Valley here. The Wolverines on the road at Abilene Christian, coming off a tough loss at the hands of Tarleton. They just got stuck in the Tarleton mud. We've talked about how the Texans have a way of just taking good teams out of their rhythm. Most of their games turn into complete foul fest. Tarleton scored 35 points at the charity stripe. Just have no chance if you're Utah Valley to get into any sort of flow. And I think in this bounce back spot today with not a huge travel going from Tarleton to Abilene, I think they just bounce back with a vengeance, get a big win today in a short road favorite spot, motivated road favorite as they try and hold on to their top spot in the WAC standings. Pretty big mismatch up front too. I think the Wolverines can bully ACU up front. So looking to lay the two here. Go UVU.
I see, Kai, that you're interested in an SEC battle, one that could have a lot in terms of impact on the overall seeding as we head into conference championship week in a week and a half.
I am interested. Yes, I'm interested in Arkansas. Arkansas 8.5. Man, the spread's high. Obviously, Alabama seemed affected by all the off the court noise in their first game since it broke, beating South Carolina by 2 in overtime. Not exactly a great accomplishment. And also, aside from that, Arkansas has been really good with Nick Smith back in the lineup. In fact, they're 6-1 against the spread when Nick Smith plays over 20 minutes in a game. KenPom makes this game 8. The market makes it 8.5. That means Smith's impact isn't really fully baked into their rating yet, in my opinion. He's only played 6 games over 20 minutes. I don't think his impact is fully reflected in the analytics, meaning this line's a little bit long for me. So I like Arkansas plus 8.5.
Jim, let's stick in the SEC. Vandy laying points. Do you think it's too many, or a Castleton free Gator team is just in free fall? What's your take on this one?
I'm leaning towards the free fall. Unfortunately, I just think he is so important to this Florida team. So at -3.5, I'm still willing to lay it with Vandy. KenPom's got this one. Like Kai said, I don't think that fully bakes in that 2.5 point gap, doesn't fully bake in the absence of Castleton. You go back to the first meeting between these two, Robbins had 32 and 10 for Vandy, and that was with Castleton on the floor. I think if you're looking to bet player props, you can't go wrong betting Robbins overs. I think he's going to absolutely smash in this game. And just, like the impact of no Castleton has been clearly felt by Florida. 0-2 against the spread in the 2 games he's missed. Kept it kind of close with Kentucky, but that was at home. They made threes, a thing they normally do not do. I think they struggle to score here and cannot stop Vanderbilt inside. So Vanderbilt -3.5 in Nashville.
So for my top pick here, we have a revenge spot at the Kennel up in Spokane. I mean, this game steamed up. It opened at 3. It's at 5.5. I think it could close 6.5 at this point. And there's lots of reasons to like the Zags in this one. Pretty much since their overtime loss against the Gales, they've been on a revenge tour. I like to call them the zombie Zags at this point, written off from a national perspective, left for dead. All they've done is average 98 points per game since that loss, 4 wins straight up, averaging over 1.2 points per possession. And then on the Gale side of things, they're leaking oil since that win in overtime, 78-70 over Gonzaga. I just view this as a St. Mary's team that has issues offensively. When Aiden Mahaney is not playing well, they struggle to get baskets. It's a real slog for them. In 7 of his last 8 games, he shot 45% or worse from the floor, and that's just not going to cut it. I know he came alive down the stretch in that first meeting with the Bulldogs, but at this point, I'm just worried. And then overall, they turn to their second leading scorer, and when it comes to what they're trying to do offensively, when they're trying to move the basketball around, Logan Johnson is somebody who can do the heavy lifting. but he's played for 5 years in the St. Mary's program. And at this point, he's had 4 bad games out of his last 6 against the Bulldogs. So I just have major concerns here. I think this could be a spot where you may want to play it on the alternate line, maybe up to 9.5, and see the Bulldogs run away with this one. What are your guys' thoughts on, a Gonzaga team that at this point in the season maybe is getting hot at the right time? I'll just kick it to you, Jim.
Mike, I love the alternate line idea because of the added implications of this game, where for Gonzaga to get the 1 seed in the conference tournament to win the title, they need to pass St. Mary's in the net, and they're 3 spots behind them right now. That is the active tiebreaker, given that they're going to split head-to-head if Gonzaga wins, and they both lost to LMU. So they need to blow them out. If they win, I think they could run away with it. And you saw that first meeting. Gonzaga really controlled it until late. I'm with you here. I think Gonzaga is climbing. I think Mr. McKeon is a Zag believer as well.
Jim, I got the shirt on, man.
There he is.
You know I'm a Zag believer. Go Zags. I support the best bet here. Yes.
All right, we're going to kick it over to our Around the World segment. That means we have a layup, a foul shot, a 3-pointer, and a half quarter. The layup is, for the games that are a little bit closer. The free throw is a line between, laying 3 or +3. The 3-pointer, 3.5 to a 9.5-point underdog. And then the half quarter going for a double-digit underdog. If this is a halftime of a game, we're rooting for the kid to get free books, tuition, maybe a car. Everyone's rooting for us to sweep the board here. So let's start with you, Matt. Who do you like for the layup?
I'm taking my Owls. Sorry, got to adorn the Winning in Paradise official logo here. Laying 11 to a good UTEP team, but a team that's hurt, a little bit banged up. They just went into FIU, had a really impressive win. Had to play wire to wire there because there's a big charge from FIU late to cut that game close after UTEP had a pretty big lead. Now they go to FAU after a pretty taxing effort, for my opinion, against a team that just went completely gangbusters. They made a change in their starting lineup. Dusty May smartly put John L. Davis and Brian Greenlee back in the starting lineup. I think they're actually starting their best 5 now, where they've been kind of having their best guys come off the bench all year. I think that switch kind of ignited this team that's been sort of flying under the radar the last few weeks after that dominant start to the year. This team's still all the way legit. I think today, with the remotivation factor added to them, now that they have a chance to claim the outright CUSA title, a couple games left, I think they're hyper locked in. I think they continue that dominance that we saw on Thursday. And when they had the 50-point win, they roll it into today, take care of business, play a full 40-minute game. I'm going to lay the 11 here with my Owls.
Just for the audience, Matt, for a program that not a lot of casual fans have watched play this year, for them to get to the Sweet 16 situationally in terms of the matchups that they're going to catch in March Madness, what's an ideal 2-pack of teams that they could play from a style perspective that you think that they would get past and get to that second weekend?
I think they're actually immune to many styles. The one where I think they're a little bit vulnerable to, just to flip that around, is a team with like a mismatch power wing that can post up. I was at the Louisiana Tech game and Kobe Williams decimated them inside, but just with their depth at guard and their pure rim protection with Golden, the former Texas Tech transfer, I think they can protect the rim against the big boys, but then also space, drive, shoot, and kick with that high upside variance with their shot making. Could also play at a really high ceiling and knock off a couple of big boys as well. So I just think it's a complete team and one without a lot of holes.
All right, Kyle, kick it to you for the foul shot here. A single possession game, either getting or laying points. Who do you like?
Yeah, I like Miss State. I'm going on 2-pack here for the SEC. It's a huge spot for them. They're off 2 straight overtime road games. One was a tough loss to the Missouri Tigers. Their back is against the wall right now for the tournament. It's an enormous game for their tournament hopes. They're currently an 11 seed, but just barely on the right side of the bubble. The key for them is to be physical and to force turnovers. This A&M team has been really, really, really good as of late, but they're still kind of loose with the ball. They're 10th in the SEC in offensive turnover rate. Mississippi State, the second best team in the conference in forcing turnovers. I think they can get it done here at home tonight.
So this is my first time here on the program hosting. I don't know if this is out of bounds, but I'm going to go with it. I should be taking the points here on the 3-pointer, but I'm going to swing for the fences and go money line. I actually grabbed it at the open and it was north of 3-1. It's at this point in the +275, +280 range, but I like Arkansas to win outright against Alabama. And we talked about it. The Nick Smith edition really raises their offensive ceiling. But when I look at the defensive side of things, the Hogs are 12th in Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency ratings. They turn teams over 14.5 times per game. And the key number that I have circled here is they have the best perimeter defense from a 3-point shooting perspective in the SEC, allowing just 5.4 made 3-pointers per game. And I know all the spotlight and focus is on Brandon Miller right now. But for my money, unless he goes off as he did against South Carolina and scores 40 plus, it's going to be on the role players to make sure that they don't go through scoring slumps as they have throughout this season. And I think the issue is that they live and die from the 3-point line. They take and make the 4th most 3-pointers in the nation. And that's why I think it's a great matchup for Arkansas. So I'm going to go with the big swing here with the Hogs winning outright. All right, we're going to kick it to the half quarter to finish this up. Jim, taking us to Long Island. Talk to me about Stony Brook.
Yeah, I'm not brave enough to tell you to go money line here. I can't quite get there, but Stony Brook plus 20 against Charleston. They've been playing really well lately. Stony Brook sneakily covered 4 of 5, and most notably among that, they only lost by 3 to Hofstra, and we have seen Hofstra just roll teams late in the season here as they've been on their way to a Colonial Conference title. Charleston might have some nerves to them here because they need to beat Stony Brook to put pressure on Hofstra, who tips 2 hours afterwards. Charleston wins and Hofstra loses. Cougars take the regular season title outright. So maybe there's a little bit of shakiness there. And from a stylistic sense, Stony Brook's really going to try to slow this game down. That is not totally ideal for Charleston. They want to get up and down, use their depth, wear teams out. Stony Brook's not going to let them do that. They're too smart. And with Tyler Stevenson more back over the past couple of weeks, he had been hurt. Now he's back. This team's just much more formidable. They're able to get a couple of buckets in the half court. I think given the spot, given the size of the spread, and Stony Brook's trend lately, I'll take the 20 points there and hope they keep it close.
Yeah, I was actually on Towson plus 9.5 on Wednesday against the Cougars. And what's interesting to me, you would assume because the Cougars bomb away from 3 that they're, a pretty good shooting team from long range. They're not. I think they're in the 180s in terms of 3-point percentage. And because of that, you can have lulls and actually catch solid live numbers on the other side on the Cougars. So I think there's a potential for a nice middle in this game if Stony Brook plays well in the first 10 minutes of this game. So I absolutely love that one. It's a Charleston team that can run hot and cold, although they have excellent offensive balance. I believe all 5 starters are in double digits this year for Charleston. All right, we're going to transition now to our spot up feature, which is our favorite situational spot of Saturday. Matt, I'll go to you first.
Riding with the Bows, heading to Island Time, where my Rainbow Warriors are hosting UC Irvine. Team that just got boat raced by UC San Diego. They've had some minor injury warts pop up here late in the season, despite getting their best player back. And that was a disgusting performance against UC San Diego, although the Tritons are playing much better as of late. It's just more about the spot, though, because they have to fly to Hawaii with less than 48 hours turnaround. There's only been one other situation this year where this has happened in the Big West. Long Beach had to make this trip. Just a brutal spot. The Beach talked about that, and they were, I think, getting 7 points on the road. An inflated line, but still Hawaii covered that. I think they cover again today here. And I like backing Hawaii as a shorter road favorite or dog. It's not a team that's great laying a lot of points. Their offense can get stuck in the mud, but I think against UC Irvine, they match up well with their size and physicality. And again, just the brutal travel spot for UC Irvine, I think makes a tough spot for them to go out and bounce back with less than 48 hours and a pretty a tedious trip on the airlines.
Kai, you've circled a team that is at least 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, was a potential March Madness Cinderella darling. Now they're firmly on the bubble. What do you think about New Mexico?
Yeah, it's do or die. I like them here against San Diego State plus 2.5. It's a huge chance for them because not only is it a good win, it's a great win. It's a Q1 win opportunity, the best type of win you can get. And bubble teams want to rack those up in great numbers. That's what separates you when you're on the cut line. They have a strong home court in New Mexico. They're fully healthy. Getting Jalen House back, obviously very huge. They immediately started winning again when he came back into the lineup. And they also controlled game 1 against San Diego State at the Viejas Center, which is incredibly hard to do. But they led pretty much wire to wire. So I think they can do it again here at the Pit. Best team in the league is coming to your hometown for a chance to go to the tournament. I think New Mexico gets it done plus 2.5.
For this next pick, if Stucky's listening in down in Aruba, just, go for a walk, hit the buffet, go to the beach. Do not listen to this next play from Jim because this is not your favorite team on the board on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going Tennessee, but apparently there are others that agree and like them on the board. This number's been bet up from 20 to 23 in some places, kind of insane. But I do think it is kind of the spot of all spots, the way it sets up. Tennessee's off 2 road losses. They're coming back home, should be healthier. Reported that Josiah Jordan-James and Julian Phillips are going to be back in the lineup. Meanwhile, South Carolina just had that exhaustive effort to get Alabama to overtime. Now they're on the road. This is a bad team, South Carolina. First matchup, Tennessee won by 43 at South Carolina. 43 on the road. So you give me a team that is hurting a little bit, the old motivated favorite spot here, plus a dog that is maybe not going to have the same juice that it did last game against the number one team in the country. Yeah, I don't like it at all for South Carolina. Tennessee up to 23 is a little dicier, but I think I would still lay it. I think they absolutely smack them.
I'm going to close this out with the team that everyone wants to talk about. It's been years since they've ever truly been on the bubble and headed into Selection Sunday. Everyone's pushing for North Carolina as a narrative, whether you love them or hate them. At this point, their resume to me is complete. They can't beat anybody who's good. Armando Bacot, in my opinion, has just been banged up the entire season. I give the kid a lot of credit for not shutting it down. He's had ankle injuries and hip injuries. He's had a bunch of limp offs, but he comes back in the second half and is just not quite as effective and bouncy. You've seen his rebound numbers drop a little bit. Outside of that, North Carolina is just not a special team, in my opinion. There's not going to be a factor where they turn it on because they can't shoot from the perimeter at all. And now they're up against a Virginia team that, in my opinion, it's a positive regression candidate because they're coming off just a real bad shooting slump where they bottomed out against Boston College. And it's important for UVA because the ACC regular season title is still on the table, but they have to win out. And then additionally, they're going to need to put together not only those 3 wins to close out their regular season, but they're going to have to win multiple games in the ACC conference tournament to stay on that 2 line. They don't want to slip too far. There's a lot of value in a really weak year at the top to be able to have, not necessarily a red carpet to the Sweet 16, but certainly an easier road than being on the 3 or 4 line. So I think you're going to get a really nice effort, particularly on the defensive end from UVA against North Carolina team that, in my opinion, remains overrated at this point in the season. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about Indiana and Purdue, or revenge spot for Purdue. A reminder to our audience that you can retweet and reply to Action Network HQ with who you think will cover between the Hoosiers and Boilermakers, and you can win $100. So let's go ahead and start with, I'll go to Kai first. Where do you lean on this game? Do you think this is a nice spot one way or the other, or is this market pretty much well calibrated? I think the public was a little bit surprised to see this number open so large in terms of a Hoosier team that won in Bloomington.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards IU because of the number, frankly, and that's really all it is. I fully respect Mackey and Purdue. I just think the line's too high. You mentioned Indiana kind of controlled Purdue from start to finish in their first game, but I think a lot of that was the fantastic spot, the atmosphere. They did not control Edey. They controlled Purdue the game. They did not control Edey. He had 33 and 18. So I think Purdue wins this game, but I just can't lay 7.5, 7 points with Purdue right now. So I would lean towards Indiana.
How about you, Matt? Do you agree, or are you going in the opposite direction?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to have my Hoosier biased momentum behind me here, but yeah, I think IU gives this Purdue team a real run for its money. The home road splits for both teams are pretty stark, and we've talked about it nauseum how much home court means in this conference. I think the updated tally as of 2 days ago was 71 and 41 against the spread of home teams in this league, but not on a long flight to West Lafayette. You're going to take a bus ride up there. I think they're just hyper locked in. IU is after that Michigan State game. And I think they had a pretty good game plan in that first match, but I think they give them a real run for their money. So I like Hoosiers here.
All right, Jim, are you going to make it a Hoosier party, or are you going the opposite direction?
Opposite way. Matt's a homer. Don't listen to him. He's got no idea here. I'm going Purdue. I would lean that way. I haven't actually bet it yet, but it's coming down. If it keeps coming down, I might consider it. 6.5 is what I'm seeing right now. I think Mackey's worth like maybe 5 points. And so if you're telling me it's only 1.5 separated on a neutral, I disagree with that. I think Purdue's better. And I like those guards a lot more at home for Purdue. Both Smith and Lawyer in the friendly confines of Mackey versus on the road, hostile environments in the Big Ten. That's kind of an issue. I think we see a real juiced up Mackey arena, kind of like we saw at IU on the other end. And Purdue actually gets this cover and kind of re-announces themselves as a 1 seed after a kind of shaky couple of weeks here.
I'm going to kind of opt out from picking a side here because the first time that they played, it was 153 total points, and it could have gone higher. 138.5 is the open on the total. Am I missing anything here to at least put 1 unit on the over and argue for a competitive game with some foul shots down the stretch? It would have to be a true rock fight, in my opinion, for this to go under comfortably. Am I missing anything? I'll kick it to you, Kai, if you have any thoughts.
The only thing is pace, right? The first game played 65 possessions. So that's your risk, is if it's not an efficient game and it plays to the same pace, it might be tough to get there. However, I lean towards the over as well. Overs in general this past month have been ridiculous. The efficiency across college basketball has been higher than we've ever seen this late in the season. So I agree with your lean.
Before yesterday, Kai, overs in the sport of the last 30 days were 795 and 637, like 57% over a sample of 1,500 games the last month. That's insane. It's absolutely nuts.
All right, before we close it out here at the Horn, we're going to get one last bet in. Matt, I think you like Indiana. So if there's any other added juice or metrics or thoughts, anecdotes, now's the time to get them in.
No, just gonna slam dunk my alley-oop to myself. Yeah, IU plus 7.5. Just a pure deep in my gut feeling that they get it done today.
All right, how about you, Kai? Who you got?
I'm going IUPUI plus 15, plus 15.5. I'm riding the train, man. They're 11-3 against the spread the last 14 games. They're hosting Youngstown for the last game of the season. Give me Ooey Pooey.
Yeah, sometimes you got to bet ooey pooey. Sometimes you have to bet bad teams. That's the Venn diagram. They're right there in the middle. How about you, Jim?
Kyle, so that's another over I like. The first game had like 180 points. The total is like 9 points higher than it was in the first meeting. I still think it's some value. My at the Horn bet here is Arizona State plus 12. They can compete a little bit in the lane against a giant Arizona front court. 12 points just feels like too many. Again, not much travel there. Big rivalry. I think that keeps the game a little bit closer than this indicates. I'll take the Sun Devils getting 12.
Yeah, when it comes to Arizona games, this is one of those alerts I like to put out for people who are looking to live bet. When Tubelis gets in foul trouble, hop in on the other teams, because coaches are always a little bit different in terms of how they manage fouls. They always sit him in the first half if he gets that number 2 foul. So you saw it in some of the most recent games where he sat 10, 11 minutes in the first half. That's the perfect time to jump in on the Sun Devils. Even if Balo also gets in foul trouble, because they're both top 30 in player efficiency this year. And when they're on the floor, they're real matchup nightmares. I'm going to end with my last bet here. I'm going to go Princeton plus 1.5. And it comes down to two things. They're all the way up to second in offensive efficiency in the Ivy. And Iwoma is finally playing his best basketball. 21 points, 9 boards, 7 assists per game in his last 3. I'll go ahead and hitch my wagon to him right there and hope that the Tigers can get it done. At this point, in terms of the regular season standings, is kind of a logjam at the top. So they have everything to play for in this spot. All right, we're going to do a quick rundown on everyone's picks. Matt has Utah Valley, FAU, Hawaii, and Indiana. Kai is on Arkansas, Mississippi State, New Mexico, and IUPUI. Jim's on Vandy, Tennessee, Stony Brook, and Arizona State. And I am on Gonzaga, Arkansas, UVA, and Princeton. So that is all of our picks wrapped up for you with a bow. You can be heard on the show next week if you make sure to call in on our Bad Beat hotline, 959-BAD-BEAT. Tell us your thoughts on the action today. And also a reminder, BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $1,000 first bet insurance. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for joining us. You can follow our picks and anything we didn't mention on the show. We'll have that all through the Action Network app. You can interact with us over on social media as well. Make sure to check out our Big Bets on Campus podcast that drops throughout the week. Believe it or not, Conference Championship Week starts on Monday, so we have plenty to talk through. Futures, long shots, favorites, everything. Good luck today, and we'll see you again next Saturday for Big Bets on Campus Live.